Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/BrianEDenton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 104. Chapter 104. Prince Andrew had to see the marshal of the nobility for the district in connection with the affairs of the Ryazan estate, of which he was the trustee. This marshal was Count Ilya Rostov, and in the middle of May, Prince Andrew went to visit him. It was now hot spring weather. The whole forest was already clothed in green. It was dusty, and so hot that on passing near water, one longed to bathe. Prince Andrew, depressed and preoccupied with the business about which he had to speak to the marshal, was driving up the avenue in the grounds of the Rostovs' house at Otradno. He heard merry girlish cries behind some trees on the right, and saw a group of girls running to cross a path of his calichet. Ahead of the rest and near to him ran a dark-haired, remarkably slim, pretty girl in a yellow chintz dress, with a white handkerchief on her head, from under which loose locks of hair escaped. The girl was shouting something, but seeing that he was a stranger, ran back laughing without looking at him. Suddenly, he did not know why, he felt a pang. The day was so beautiful, the sun so bright, everything around so gay, but that slim, pretty girl did not know, or wished to know, of his existence, and was contented and cheerful in her own separate, probably foolish, but bright and happy life. What is she so glad about? What is she thinking of? Not of the military regulations or of the arrangement the Ryazan serfs quit rents. Of what is she thinking? Why is she so happy? Prince Andrew asked himself, with instinctive curiosity. In 1809, Count Ilya Rostov was living at Otradno, just as he had done in former years, that is, entertaining almost the whole province with hunts, theatricals, dinners, and music. He was glad to see Prince Andrew, as he was to see any new visitor, and insisted on his staying the night. During the dull day, in the course of which he was entertained by his elderly hosts, and by the more important of the visitors, the old count's house was crowded on account of an approaching name-day, Prince Andrew repeatedly glanced at Natasha, gay and laughing among the younger members of the company, and asked himself each time, what is she thinking about? Why is she so glad? That night, alone in new surroundings, he was long unable to sleep. He read a while, and then put out his candles, but relit it. It was hot in the room, the inside shutters of which were closed. He was cross with the stupid old man, as he called Rostov, who had made him stay by assuring him that some necessary documents had not yet arrived from town, and he was vexed with himself for having stayed. He got up and went to the window to open it. As soon as he opened the shutters, the moonlight, as if it had long been watching for this, burst into the room. He opened the casement. The night was fresh, bright, and very still. Just before the window was a row of pollard trees, looking black on one side and with a silvery light on the other. Beneath the trees grew some kind of lush, wet, bushy vegetation with silver-lit leaves and stems here and there. Farther back, beyond the dark trees, a roof glittered with dew. To the right was a leafy tree with brilliantly white trunk and branches, and above it shone the moon, nearly at its full, in a pale, almost starless, spring sky. Prince Andrew leaned his elbows on the window ledge, and his eyes rested on that sky. His room was on the first floor. Those in the rooms above were also awake. He heard female voices overhead. "Just once more," said a girlish voice above him, which Prince Andrew recognized at once. "But when are you coming to bed?" replied another voice. "I won't. I can't sleep. What's the use? Come now, for the last time." Two girlish voices sang a musical passage, the end of some song. "Ah, how lovely. Now go to sleep, and there's an end of it." "You go to sleep, but I can't," said the first voice, coming nearer to the window. She was evidently leaning right out, for the rustle of her dress and even her breathing could be heard. Everything was stone still, like the moon and its light in the shadows. Prince Andrew, too, dared not stir, for fear of betraying his unintentional presence. "Sonia, Sonia," he again heard the first speaker. "Oh, how can you sleep? Oh, look how glorious it is. Ah, how glorious. Do wake up, Sonia," she said with almost tears in her voice. "There never was such a lovely night before." Sonia made some reluctant reply. "Do just come and see what a moon. Ah, how lovely. Come here. Darling, sweetheart, come here. There, you see? I feel like sitting down on my heels, putting my arms around my knees like this, straining tight as possible, and flying away like this. Take care, you'll fall out." He heard the sound of a scuffle and Sonia's disapproving voice. "It's past 1 o'clock. Oh, you only spoil things for me. All right, go. Again all was silent, but Prince Andrew knew she was still sitting there. From time to time he heard a soft rustle, and at times a sigh. Oh God, what does it mean?" she suddenly exclaimed. "To bed then, if it must be," and she slammed the casement. For her, I might as well not exist, thought Prince Andrew while he listened to her voice, for some reason expecting yet fearing that she might say something about him. There she is again, as if it were on purpose, thought he. In his soul there suddenly arose such an unexpected turmoil of youthful thoughts and hopes, contrary to the whole tenor of his life, that unable to explain his condition to himself, he lay down and fell asleep at once. All right, that concludes my reading of chapter 104. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, Day 104. Natasha's Moon. While on a walk through the rustic Sicilian countryside, New York City gangster Michael Corleone once crossed paths with a lovely local girl and was immediately stopped dead in his tracks. It was as if his heart were simultaneously elated and arrested by an overwhelming pulsing through his veins of awe and desire. His Italian bodyguards described this condition as being struck by the thunderbolt. Very little is known about the thunderbolt, other than that it is native to all lands, and it may strike at any time without warning. Today, it strikes Prince Andrew Bolkonsky. Perhaps Prince Andrew's heart is ripe for the striking. You'll recall that in yesterday's reading he ruminated forlornly on an oak tree and the hopelessness of life. That depression carries into today's chapter, at least in the early stages, as he leaves his estate to visit his district's Marshal of Nobility on an errand. As it turns out, the Marshal is none other than Count Rostov. Old man Rostov is still the same old incorrigible profligate. He's entertaining everybody in the district with hunts, theatricals, dinners, and music. It's into this scene of debt-fueled plenty that Prince Andrew enters by carriage. As he enters, he hears the merrymaking of some female voices. He spots one of them, Natasha, running around and shouting something to her friend. A pang bangs his heart. Later, at dinner, he can't keep his eyes off her. But still, the prematurely aged curmudgeon, he asks himself, what is she thinking about? Why is she so happy? Clearly, for ponderers of hopeless oak like Prince Andrew, Natasha's mirth and jocundity is an alien concept. It doesn't turn him off, though, quite the contrary. At bedtime, he can't sleep, so he goes to the window and contemplates the vista there before him. In the room above, he hears the rustling of dresses, followed by Natasha's voice. He freezes, fearful that any noise he makes will betray his unintentional presence there. Natasha apparently can't sleep either. She's too excited. She just can't hide it. Sonia attempts to get her to go to sleep, but Natasha refuses. She says the night is simply too beautiful to ignore. She draws Sonia's attention to the moon. She finds it absolutely enchanting and glorious. She wants to curl up into a ball and just float away towards it. It's curious to note how different Natasha's moon is from Andrew's oak. Natasha's moon is skyward, light-giving, and aspirational. Andrew's oak is immobile, grounded, and bleak in its old age. But maybe Natasha's moon, shining down, can cast a new light on Andrew's oak. Maybe. We're told, after all, that Andrew goes to sleep that night with an unexpected turmoil of youthful thoughts and hopes, contrary to the tenor of his life. So strikes the thunderbolt. Daily meditation. And is the image of our frail mortality forever present with you, to throw a damp on your gayest hours, and poison even those joys which love inspires? Consider rather that if life be frail, if youth be transitory, we should well employ the present moment, and lose no part of so perishable an existence. Yet a little moment in thee shall be no more. We shall be as if we had never been. Not a memory of us will be left upon the earth, and even the fabulous shades below will not afford us a habitation. Our fruitless anxieties, our vain projects, our uncertain speculations shall all be swallowed up and lost. Our present doubts concerning the original cause of all things must never, alas, be resolved. This alone we may be certain of, that if any governing mind preside, he must be pleased to see us fulfill the ends of our being, and enjoy that pleasure, for which alone we were created. Let this reflection give ease to your anxious thoughts, but render not your joys too serious by dwelling forever upon it. It is sufficient once to be acquainted with this philosophy, in order to give an unbounded loose to love and jollity, and remove all the scruples of a vain superstition. But while youth and passion, my fair one, prompt our eager desires, we must find gayer subjects of discourse to intermix with these amorous caresses. David Hume, the Epicurean. All right, so that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 104. I hope you liked it. Thanks so much for listening. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Tomorrow we'll be reading and reflecting on chapter 105. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.